the security framework, which is already, you are mandated to adopt. Now, I wanted to give you an example of if you're in a country, based on country, what for government sector, what obligations do they have? For example, United States, federal government organizations within United States, they are required to comply with the FISMA 2014, Federal Information Security Modernization Act. And if you guys are doing CISSP, writing CISSP, these all things you will have to remember and by heart, I guess. And it also uses in North America, like United States, not in North America, United States, NIST 853, it provides the control catalog, that spaghetti ingredients on which your security management must be based. If you're in U.S. energy sector, then you'll need to adopt the North American Electrical Reliability Corporation Critical Infrastructure Protection Framework, which is also called as NERC-CIP. And if you're in the U.S. healthcare sector, you need to allow to HIPAA. Now, if you're an Australian government, Australian Commonwealth Government Organization Information and Information Systems are required to implement security measures that comply with the government's Protective Security Policy Framework and Information Security Manual. That's what, if you're in a government organization there. If you're in United Kingdom, organizations within Her Majesty's Government, HMG, are required to meet a range of mandatory security outcomes contained in the United Kingdom Security Policy Framework, published by their Cabinet Office. And if you're in Saudi Arabia, all government entities and their affiliate organizations in the kingdom are required to comply with the nation's Cybersecurity Center, NCSC's Essential Cybersecurity Controls, ECC. But what happens? Now, this is my question to you. Like, we know that where the organizations, the governments are already mandating framework, you have to use these. My question to you is, and I would like you all to reply me in chat, but first listen to the question. What happens if there is no industry-specific or government-mandated security framework and control catalog, and you are a security leader? What will be the key consideration you will make? What factors would you consider before making a decision? Or what key factors would be to help you make that decision, that which framework and control catalog you should use? I'm not talking about, I want you to tell me which framework or catalog would you use. I want you to talk about what factors would you consider in choosing a framework, if you can please reply. If there is no industry-specific or government-mandated security framework or control catalog, PM, I'm saying there's no regulation, like there's no industry-specific or government-mandated. So legal regulations are government-mandated, right? So again, DB, there is no industry-specific. So again, you are telling me what framework will you use. I'm saying what factors would you consider in making a decision? PM, very good. Security maturity of the organization, great. Risk profile, good. Anything else? Keep your comments coming. Customer requirements, okay. You're a security leader and you have asked, budget. Excellent. Very good, PM. Budget, yeah. Good. So let me answer this. And you all are, locations, maybe not, What, in this case, organization's security capability maturity, your current maturity, security maturity, which one of you answered correctly, and all of you, I think, answered. You understand you really understand what I'm coming to. So your organization's security capability maturity, your security team's capacity and capability, both. Do you have the security talent in your organization, and do they have capacity? These are the key inputs in selecting your security control framework and control catalog. I'll repeat. Organizational security current maturity, security team capacity, and capability become the key input in selecting your security control framework and control catalog. Because if you overcommit, you will underdeliver. Because if you don't have current maturity and you don't have security team, talent, and capacity, making this decision without an understanding of these aspects can lead to an unwanted consequences. For examples, controls may be implemented partially or suboptimally, leaving the organization still vulnerable. So keep this in mind. Now, next step. Now, once you have understood that, okay, what regulation we need to follow, do we have already a framework? You start by sourcing and referencing your organization's business strategy, technology strategy, overall threat and risk landscape, and any other regulatory obligation that you need to adhere to. So as a security and risk management leader, you would need to also recognize that not all organizations' information security requirements may be visible to you, to the security team. As a leader, you must engage proactively with other parts of the business, such as legal, risk, and frontline business units to identify discrete regulatory or legislative obligations that include information security requirements that need to be considered in control selection. For example, in one of the business units, it is possible that they have a compliance team who is already, doing some analysis that which regulations are not there yet, but they are coming in next 2 years or next 1 year. And they're already doing that analysis, and they're already looking to what's coming in 2 years. And you as a security leader are basing your decision only what is there right now. What's going to happen? Are you really positioning your organization for the future? No. You're making decisions based on, what the information is today. So should you not be, as a security leader, interfacing with those business units and finding out from them, what are the expectations now and what are the expectations in future, so that when you make a decision, you're in a better position. In nutshell, as part of the strategic planning process, scan your internal and external environment to identify the contextual factors that could influence your selection of security framework and control. Like, for example, GDPR came in Europe. Organizations were already preparing for it because that is a very stringent regulation. So once you have done this, the next thing, once you have identified your framework, you want to align this to identify the appropriate security control catalog for your organization to leverage. You can use CIS Top 20, you can use ISO 27002, which is the code of practice underpinning ISO 27001. You can use 805 NIST 800-53, but you can use any of the control catalog. It's the same spaghetti example. You can get ingredients from any store, doesn't matter, right? They all have the library. You can fetch it from any store. The ingredient would have different brand, but it will be the same ingredient. The spice won't change. Salt will remain salt. So that is an analogy I wanted to use. Now, if so you have selected the control catalog. Now, if you're also an organization that captures, for example, that captures and collects and stores and processes credit card information, then you are going to have to look at the, to be compliant with PCI DSS standard. And you have to have those adaptations in place as well. So these are the things you have to consider while building your framework. JB is saying, wouldn't I choose a framework which is recognized more in the countries I'm operating with? No, that's not irrelevant at all. Again, you want to use 27001. We discussed about so many things, JB. We discussed, first of all, are you competing in a market where you need to differentiate yourself and people are asking for ISO 27001? If I want to do business with you and I say, for me as a client, 27001 is important, or there are many clients like me in my country, for them ISO 27001 is important, then maybe you should use that because you want to do business with us. Just because you don't have ISO 27001, maybe you won't be able to do business. But maybe you But then, do you have the security team you're looking for? Can you get money to be do you want to certify, or do you just want to comply to that? So there are many factors, JB, you have to think about, and this session is not this. We don't have enough time to really go into that much depth. One important thing to remember, all of you, compliance is not security. Compliance is a point in time you're compliant to something. It doesn't mean you're secure. So if somebody says, I'm compliant, it means our organization is secure. If that was the case, Home Depot would not have been, they would not have been breached. There are so many organizations, financial institutions, they have a compliance team, a big compliance team, still they get breached because compliance is not security. So that means you shouldn't, the message I want to give, don't think of a framework as a checklist of control. You shouldn't decide on a standard or framework and dive straight in and go start checking boxes of every control that they contain. You still have to know the risk landscape that you are operating in and apply the controls in a manner that reflect this risk posture. That's extremely important. As JB, your question about, what is the risk profile of your organization in the country, in this, place you are, all those things, in the sector you are, all those things have to be the input to that. Now, today, ISO 27001 is also become kind of a risk-driven. It's very heavy on processes. You don't have to comply. You don't have to apply all the controls, but you can pick and choose. So that's a good thing. At the end of the day, as a security leader, the key thing to remember is when you are looking at all of these frameworks is you need to be able to demonstrate to your senior executives that you are not spending $100 to protect something that is worth $10 for your organization. And that's one of the dangers that comes from treating these frameworks as a compliance checklist or compliance instrument. So that's the key message I wanted you to have. I wanted to talk, we have next 9 minutes. I wanted to talk about NIST CyberSecurity Framework. Intent is to give you a quick understanding of that so that you can use it. It is a risk-based approach. NIST uses risk-based approach for your security program. It has 3 core components. One is called core, profiles, and tiers. Core, the core is basically a common set of cybersecurity activities which kind of defines what is cybersecurity, what is the scope, and what will help in enhancing the security posture of our organization. And it's broken down. Core is broken down, down across the 5 functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Now, these functions are not intended to form a serial path or lead to a static desired end state. Rather, the function should be performed concurrently and continuously to form an operational culture that addresses the dynamic cybersecurity risk. So identify and protect are basically before an incident occurs. You have all the preventative controls, identity and access management, policies, standards, asset management, all of those, supply chain risk, all they become identify and protect. And then detect and response are during an incident. Do you have your playbooks, communication plans, containment strategy, detection processes? Does your SIM work? Are your application logging into your SIM and whatnot? And recover is after an incident. It means can you come up on your feet? How quickly you can come up on your feet so that business is not impacted. Now these 5 function, and then there is a next level is the category. There are 23 categories, and then these categories, the lowest level are subcategories, and there are 108 subcategories, 108 controls. So if you go there will be controls. Let me show you. So let's see this, right? We took identify. If you go here, the first one is identify. So in identify, you have a category asset management. If I go back, you see identify, the first one is asset management. So if you go identify, asset management, and then you have subcategory. These are the subcategories. Means these subcategories, if you go to these, take each of these and go to the informative references, go to CIS top 20 controls or 853, and it tells you how to do that. How thing is in these control catalog. How would you do that? So when you do that complete how, you, for example, IDMAM-1, you'll be able to complete this. And once you complete all the subcategory, it means your category is complete. But then not complete. There is depending what the maturity level of each control is, each subcategory is. Are you doing one time? Is it continuous? Are there security processes related to it? So it becomes really, really in-depth understanding. Yes, ML. Now, I hope you understand core. I hope you understand functions and how, that is the core of this cybersecurity framework. And then this is tier. And that is where we're talking about maturity, security maturity. Because you might implement a control, but that control might not be mature. So, excuse me, these tiers can help determine the extent to which cybersecurity risk management is informed by decision business needs and is integrated into organizations' overall risk management practice. You might have a incident response plan, but maybe so it means you have a control, you have an incident response plan, you have a playbook, but then your SIM is not alerting on the key things. So what good is that? So when in tiers, the partial means that an organization may have those categories and subcategories implemented partially in an ad hoc manner. It's not always done. Roles and responsibilities are not clear. There's not a lot of consistency. When we talk risk informed, it means there is a little bit of more consistency. People are going to be doing things in a way that makes sense for the organization. And at risk informed and then repeatable is people are doing it's a repeatable process, right? And adaptive is when you have threat intelligence. You're really making changes because you have a threat intelligence program, you have recovery program, you have so much maturity that you can pivot. And I'll give you an example. For example, organizations which had a good security program or security maturity level, they were quickly able to pivot in pandemic time. They were quickly able to get all their workforce working from home. They were able to cater to their customers without any hiccup. It means they were at tier 4 security maturity level if they were able to do that flawlessly. There's nothing like, I don't think flawless is possible. But what I'm saying is, I'm just giving you an analogy. If they were able to do that, an example is that they would be adaptive. And that's all I wanted to talk about with all of you. Another one thing is how to use the framework. There are 6 ways to use this cybersecurity framework. You can review your cybersecurity practices. You can establish or improve a cybersecurity program. You can go through all the controls and ask your questions to yourself or to your business or to your organization. What are you doing and where the gaps are? And then you can assign a number saying whatever security maturities is -1, 0, whatever it is, right? And then you ask your leadership, where do we want to reach? Maybe you decide that we just want to be, we want to be just repeatable. We don't have that much money to be adaptive. We just want to be repeatable at that tier level, and we're happy. And how much money would you need, and how much timeline would be needed? So all those questions can help you create some data which can you use in the conversation with your leadership and get that money saying, today our maturity is 0.5. And if you want that business is not impacted, then we want to reach maturity tier 3, tier 3. That's what we want to do if we want to be successful. And then your board says, or your executives say, when can we reach there? Say, maybe in 4 years, provided we have this much money. It all depends. And we have sponsorship. And they say, okay, we'll give you this many $1 million over these many years to get to that maturity. And then you can keep measuring yourself. And that is the best way to use this framework too. With that, I think I am done for this session. Did you like it? What would you like me to, give more information in another sessions? Let me know. I really appreciate your feedback. Extremely important that I receive your feedback because that helps me to create this, sessions more useful for you.